This is Kenya's biggest conversation. City Muga, let's start with the day's proverb.
Indeed, let's. You know, one of the things that I try to do is to make sure that I understand the proverbs that I am about to present.
Yeah.
Sometimes I come across proverbs that even I have difficulty understanding, and even when it is explained, I'm thinking, what on earth are these people talking about? However, this one is simple and straightforward. Better little than too little.
Better little than too little.
Yes.
And you said first you understood this one.
Oh, this one I got. I got. Sometimes there's a bias. I'm leaning towards a bias in that it appeals to me. Contentment. That's the message I got from it. Contentment.
Be happy with what you have.
Understanding, you don't necessarily have to be happy. Just understand that there is the concept of enough.
Or it could be less.
Yes. And even if it's less, you see, less can't be an entity unless it's comparative. So less than.
What you have.
Yes, more also, more than. Yes. So get to that point where, okay, this is it. There could be another it, but for now, this is it. Acknowledging the it that you have. Yes.
Okay. So that you understand those. So when you hear medali like this, for example, medali ya Kiswahili, chururu si ndondondo.
All right. Bandu bandu huisha gogoni.
Now you guys are just making stuff up. Wow.
Actually, not really.
Start by understanding.
Churu churu. What?
It's onomatopoeic, so just think about it.
Sounds like chura.
Chururu si ndo.
Sounds like music. Drops.
Drip, drip, as opposed to
Rushing
Ndo.
water
gushing,
Can't-
really.
Ndo.
be compared to
Dripping.
dripping water.
I said, get a little onomatopoeic here. Yes.
Okay.
Let the sound system get active. Yes.
Activate your sound.
Activate the sound.
As opposed to what you said, bondo.
Bandu bandu huisha gogoni.
Bandu. Ushia. Hey. Anyway, so where is this one going to Ishia now for the people who are championing the no campaign? All right. We already know that the other Bandu is sharing at the referendum. What is Bandu?
Live and learn.
Referendum is a given. The more than the required half of the 47 county assemblies in the country have said yes to the BBI amendment bill. And those have already been presented to the speakers of the Senate and the National Assembly. The speakers, especially the one of the Senate, said yesterday, look, we have already passed the threshold, so we are now, according to the Constitution, this matter should be discussed in Parliament without delay. So without delay, next week, Parliament is going to discuss this. And also remember, Parliament discussing these bills is, I think it's mainly, if you just think about it technically, it is to create awareness, to sensitize MPs about the law that is going to be taken to the people. Because the MPs are not going to have any proposal to amend any part of this bill.
No.
As it arrives, you discuss it, you say yes, you say no, it goes to referendum. It doesn't matter whether you say yes or whether you say no, as long as the people represented by their county assemblies have said yes, story done. So referendum is a given. Then we also know that there are those who are still saying the 2010 constitution was the best constitution that we gave to ourselves. The 2010 constitution is a constitution that has not been fully implemented, and we must protect the 2010 constitution. And those have coalesced around a movement that they're calling Linda Katiba. We'll be joined by one of them shortly, Jerotich Seii. Then we also see now politically, and this is where CTU keeps saying that the media wants to create two opposing sides. Maybe, maybe not. The headline, big headline today in the paper, big split in Ruto camp over BBI. And yesterday, the president and the leader of ODM met fellow party leaders. The president is a party leader as well, but I think here he was meeting as president, and that's why they were in State House. President of the Republic, party leader of Jubilee, party leader of ODM, party leader of Amani National Congress, party leader of Wiper. Wiper? It's called what? Wiper. Party leader of NAC and party leader of Ford Kenya. chairman of KANU met yesterday. Party leader of Maendeleo Chap was not here.
Did you
And
say
I was
ANC?
concerned. I was wondering, yes, ANC is there. Maendeleo Chap was not here. I wondered, what is it, man? Anyway, so they party leaders, they met yesterday and they started talking about, so how do we now create, first of all, proper public awareness and sensitization of this BBI amendment? How do we drum up support for the bill so that people can give it the same way we are getting that 95 to 98% yes in the counties? How do we get the same of the people in the referendum? Remember, there are several risks here. The Constitution says that in every county that we're going to consider that has participated in this, if 20% of the registered voters in a particular county participate in a referendum, and then a simple majority of those say yes,
Done.
20, like that.
Constitution.
If you do not get 20% of registered voters in 24 counties participating,
Sorry.
my friend, it doesn't matter whether the other 23 counties have 100% turnout. Sorry, like you said. The issue of the deputy president and where he moves, now the headline here and the story is that, those supporters of the deputy president, there are three options that are being presented to him. Number one, ignore BBI anyway. Forget about BBI, okay? Let's talk about the government projects and let's talk about 2022 campaigns. BBI, let those who are dealing with BBI deal with BBI, not your baby. If you go to the market, focus on the business that took you to there.
Not the noise of the market.
And not the noise of the market.
Okay.
So there are those who listen to the proverb and they've told the deputy president, this applies. There are those who are telling the deputy president, okay, do this. Jump on the bandwagon. Say yes. Back the bill. Be with the majority. Get the opportunity to also present yourself to the people. And there are those who are saying, lead the no camp. And that's why now we ask ourselves, when we say lead the no side, are we saying that the no side has no leadership? Who is in the no side? The no side is led by, has the people who are speaking. Civil society organizations. Martha Karua of NARC Kenya has come out to speak about this. We know people like Jerotich Seii who have come together and said, Linda Katiba. And these are mainly civil society. And there are political players as well who have come up. And together they have a movement called Linda Katiba. So already there's leadership on their no side. But is it visible? Is it
You see, whenever we talk of leadership in a political process such as this one, you're looking for a leading light in the political sphere, as in a politician, a known politician, someone who plies his trade in politics. Now, on that front, I think we've opened new avenues for vagary. Yes, no, but it's not yes, and it's no, we are not supporting, but we are not. In my mind, sometimes I'm actually confused because on the one hand, I hear narratives that clearly point negatively to those who support the BBI, but with the other cheek, it's no, we are not opposed to the BBI. So now, this conversation and the variables that seem to be presented to the DP, well, whether they are true or not, in my mind, is really not the issue here. In a political process, as you anticipate to win, you also must anticipate that you may not win or you may not get what you wanted. The issue here is now the things that you're planning to do. How do they resonate with the larger plan that you had? How will they propel you forward? Because this issue of seeking the ultimate leadership of the country is not a sprint. It's a tedious, torturous, it's not even a marathon. Okay? No. It is, you know, marathons are run in streets. Okay? This is cross country. There are hills to climb. There are muddy patches. There are places where you have rocks. That's what it is. So, if someone claims and wants this higher seat, this is an opportunity for them to show their mettle. Yes. Setbacks in the political scheme, in my opinion, are opportunities. Let them show us what it is that they have. See, you want this thing. This is what other people have. Remember, for the longest time, one of the things that has been spoken adversely about the former deputy president, the former prime minister, is the number of times he has lost a presidential election. Okay? But the odd thing about this particular individual is like every time he loses, he doesn't become weaker. He,
He grows in strength.
yeah, it appears like he gets stronger. I mean, so a man doesn't have any public appointee. He's not an MP, he's not a senator, and yet seems to command a lot of power.
So losing works for him.
That's what I'm saying. There seems to be a formula he has figured out. So I'm saying, anyone who wants to be in the political sphere, you must understand how it is. You are going to maneuver this supposed setback that people are talking about, how you are going to use this lemon and
gain strength.
Yes, exactly, because
Right.
it's a setback. It's not a failure.
Yeah.
It's a
So
setback.
lemon's lemonade is what you're talking about.
Yeah,
what you get,
that
and then
thing.
what you're
That
able to do
analogy
with
of
it.
lemon, I don't particularly like it.
You said it though.
No. No.
Let's introduce our guest. She's arrived. Jerotich Seii, active citizen, our friend in the Situation Room. Let's do the Kenyan thing. Happy New Year.
Merry
wow.
Christmas. Merry
Yeah.
Christmas. Actually, Merry pre-COVID. I haven't seen you guys in a
It's
very
true,
long
we've not
time.
seen
Yes.
seen.
Well, we haven't-
Happy to see you all again.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you.
So let's just start off talking about the former Prime Minister. We saw pictures on social media the other day. You were sitting close to the former Prime Minister and enjoying some whiling the evening away.
Over a glass of lemonade.
Yes.
A glass of it was dawa.
Over a glass of dawa.
It was a mug of dawa. I
Right.
don't
So
know
that's
those-
lemonade
those
plus
other-
ginger. Plus-
No. Actually, it's been fascinating because it's almost as though freedom of association is not permitted anymore. There's been such a kerfuffle over my having. I would also have a dawa with the president or with Ruto or anybody else who comes
Who
to
has
visit me.
dawa?
Yes. So who wants a mug of dawa? So no, we met and he called upon me and we had a great conversation. And I think the thing in Kenya is the politics of opposition and of vengeance and of vindictiveness and hatefulness has so permeated how we interact that we've forgotten that we can be civil. And so either people thought I should have, rolled up my sleeves and had a massive fight with the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, or most definitely he had come to see me to compromise me and make me drop Linda Katiba. It was neither. We were just having a conversation, and he, shared his points, and I shared my points. I asked him questions, and it was altogether pleasant. Has that changed my mind? In any way, shape, or form, me, I'm still 100% Linda Katiba Damu.
So if we see a Gazette notice in coming weeks and the name Jerotich Seii is there and has been appointed to something or the other, we should not connect the two.
Actually, don't give these guys ideas.
Actually, no. We're not giving them ideas. We know these people.
Yes, this is the problem.
Okay?
Yeah.
We know IEBC doesn't have all the commissioners that it should have.
know?
Yeah.
We know. Okay? We know that some appointments for some ambassadorial positions we know all these things. So it isn't as though it should be looked at negatively. You're a Kenyan.
There are vacancies.
There are vacancies. You are a known individual.
What do you guys know that I don't?
And you'd represent Kenya well. You've already been doing very well in representing Kenyans.
I call that the
There are some
politics of
directors of the
neutralization.
Kenya Power Company that resigned, a couple of I'm not saying anything. So, Chero, this Linda Katiba movement.
And remember,
You see, I've missed you guys.
if you talk about Linda Katiba, I want you to know that we spoke to Edwin Sifuna and listen to him. I actually thought for a moment this guy is also Linda Katiba because his entire speech was, we want to strengthen the Constitution. There are gaps within the Constitution, and the things we are proposing will tighten so that there are no more loopholes. Is that not Linda in the Katiba?
This is exactly what the Right Honorable shared with me and said, this is a process of strengthening that which is not working. And I said, the existential threat that we face as Kenyans is not whether there's small amendments that need to be made here and there. And by the way, these are not small amendments. It's 14 out of 18 chapters. I don't know how many articles are being touched. I said that the threat we face is impunity and lack of accountability. So there's nothing in all the BBI proposals, no matter how lovely and flowery the language is about ethos and loving one another, that has shown me how we're going to deal with the single most significant threat to the Constitution of Kenya 2010, which is disobedience, impunity, and lack of accountability. So even if you say we're strengthening, for example, the issue of the principal secretaries, we have asked about that. I've asked about that repeatedly and on other fora, where I've said you will have permanent secretaries, I think that's what they'll be called now, who will not be vetted. And yet we know the conveyancing the running, the nerve center of a ministry, it happens there within the office of the principal secretary. If you're proposing in the BBI document that they will not be vetted, where is accountability? So you leave it at that space, back to the Moi and Kibaki days and Jomo Kenyatta days, where ministers are cabinet secretaries or ministers are drawn from members of parliament. Same with the assistant ministers. All those will be vetted because they have been elected by the people. But the principal secretaries, what happens there? In the past now, presently, they are vetted. Whether the vetting is politicized or not, they are vetted. So there are so many areas that actually roll back the gains. Sunset clause on the 2/3 gender rule. And equity. We can never have a sunset clause on inclusiveness and equality. You cannot say after 15 years, let's let it go. So long as we have bad manners as Kenyans and we are unable to understand the principles of equality and equity, it must remain enshrined in the Constitution. Which takes me to that.
So you don't want us to have any sunset law to our bad manners?
No, when the bad manners end, then it will
We
just
must give
remain there
ourselves a
because
timeline.
maybe our great-great-great-grandchildren will have bad manners and they will be reminded again in the Constitution that bad manners are not accepted. And by bad manners, I'm being a bit tongue-in-cheek because it's more than bad manners. It's discrimination, it's exclusion, the same things that the Constitution of Kenya 2010 does not stand for. Yeah. But you see, we also have our matter in court because we are also exploring and seeking an advisory as to the limits of so-called amendments. What is the basic structure of the Constitution? And when does it change or go from being amendments, ameliorative, corrective tweaks here and there, to absolute mutilation, massacre, transformation of the document, which is therefore a repeal process, in which case they need to be honest and say, we want to repeal this Constitution. It's no longer fit for purpose. Kenya, let's go into a process of reworking and rebuilding and rewriting this Constitution, like we did since the late 80s, all the way to its promulgation in 2010. So there's mischief afoot. And so even if the Secretary General will say, yes, we're trying to improve. Improve what? How are you going to show me that whatever improvements you've made will be respected and followed? We have impunity written into the DNA of our political class.
If in essence, the document that we're talking about now, 2010, in its spirit, really, from what you're saying, has actually not been implemented. It hasn't been implemented. How are we sure now that if you're trying with these further protections, how are we sure then that will be done if the original hasn't been? Is that one of the issues we're also
that is my
looking at?
point exactly. That is our point. So that is why we say Linda Katiba. We say protect and defend it. We also say Tekeleza Katiba because, implement it. Show me demonstrable evidence where this was set out in the, for example, 2/3 gender rule. Since 2010, 10 years, the parliament has failed to enact legislation. It's lack of political will, as opposed to lack of brains or formula or thinking. It's a willingness.
Right.
There's nothing but disobedience nonstop. And if you can show me where you tried to implement, it did not work, and therefore this amendment that we're introducing will enable us now to implement. Show me.
Well, show me where it is. Political processes go through any such rigorous process.
Good
No,
point.
it is spoken, and then abracadabra, it is done. But remember, if we were to talk honestly about this, the idea of Linda Katiba is one of those ideas that one wants to cherish because it keeps that fighting spirit of ensuring that the Constitution is actually lived up to. You talk about it, you debate it, and we have the freedom. But freedom is something you keep fighting for. Now, where I have an issue is this. It's a discussion on social media. It is a discussion which in many ways appears to be elitist. And where you lose out as civil society is that when we change the Constitution, the process that galvanizes almost everyone within the society to be able to follow up. This particular thinking isn't doing that. So your narrative is drowned. It's an excellent narrative, but it is drowned. It isn't...
Drowned by?
It's drowned by the political noise. The political noise is... For instance, you talk about Linda Katiba. Let me juxtapose it for you. How on earth do you think that all these lovely points about mutilating the Constitution is actually going to compete with the narrative of you are getting more money, so more money is coming to you? Previously, we would get money, but it would never get to you. Some along the line, it would be hijacked. But now we're making sure that at the lowest possible level, this money gets to you.
And it's guaranteed.
And it's guaranteed.
by the
That's why we're putting
Constitution.
it in law, so that it gives. Do you think such a narrative, it doesn't matter what else you say in between, which one do you think is going to trump the other?
You're absolutely right that the political noise, in fact, before we even go to political noise, let's talk about the narratives that the Fourth Estate are being tempted into or are already pushing and peddling around this, the face of no versus the face of yes. So we are immediately put in an oppositional space. And once you're there...
Are you put really, or are you actually there?
No, we are there, but we do not define how we are put there. That's why we're talking about it. That's why I'm here.
Okay.
The definition is then provided by the political class and the purveyors of fake news, and there are very, very, very many of them. For example, the idea that this is elitist. When you think about Linda Katiba, you have political parties, at least 3 represented there. In Linda Katiba. You have NAK Kenya, you have Ukweli Party, you have MDG. For example, I'm
Who are MDG again?
not the Millennium Development. So if I were to associate, you'd have Daisy with MDG, Boniface Mwangi with Ukweli, and Martha Karua with NAK Kenya. Me, I'm agnostic, and I've voted in various places over the years. The point I'm trying to make is wako mashinani. If you look at NAK Kenya and its presence in Northeastern, so even as we are working and as the noise is drowning out the sounds of our working, we are on the ground, pole pole. Now, listen, this political class pushing yes has massive machinery and mechanisms and billions of shillings behind it. And so it's already a limping, if you say today, let's take Linda Katiba Mashinani. By the time we have cobbled together our volunteers and our network of supporters, and thousands have signed up, by the time we get there, see, the counties have already approved. All it needed was the president in Sagana to say mtapewa ka grant. Next thing you know, 30 counties in the alacrity with which the speed with which they moved to pass this the amendment bill was shocking. So what I'm trying to say is, even though we almost appear to be on the back foot because a narrative is being pushed by the political class, the purveyors of fake news, you should see the things that are being said about us. And if today somebody wakes up and says Jerotich is a medical doctor, and you say it long enough, and you even explain what school she went to. You even have photos of me operating on someone. All you need to do is post my face,
in a lab coat.
In a lab coat.
With the stethoscope hanging around
yes,
your
and
neck.
then before you know it, I'll be called Daktari. That's what the fake news purveyors do. Think of 2017 when they had this massive campaign against NASA. You remember the images of Right Honorable Raila Odinga, and you see fire burning, you hear that ominous music, the Cambridge Analytica style, transforming him into this prophet of war.
They did an excellent job, didn't they?
I tell you what, they did. But see, the elections were still nullified. So there's another story there around process and procedure, which is what the High Court, the 5-judge bench, advised when they gave the conservatory orders to stop the IEBC from proceeding with referendum preparation. They said, we're not stopping the legislature, keep doing what you're doing, but we're going to scrutinize your process. It's about form, it's about content. How did you do your public participation? How did you do your civic education? So even when you think of the nullification of the elections in 2017, see, it was on process. It was process. It wasn't somebody said they didn't even have proof of rigging. Anyway, those servers have never been opened, so we don't know. But what I was trying to say back to
those
the
servers
elitist,
they will
never be open. But it's an open secret also, because people know who won and who didn't win, etc. But back to what you were saying about the elitism, this is also the narrative that's being pushed. But if you want to say the middle class...
Is it really just a narrative?
No. But if you're going to say the middle class are not entitled to debate the Katiba, simultaneously or alongside Mashinani and everybody else, what are we saying? That the middle class, if you have a discussion that involves the middle class, who listens to Spice? Who listens to you guys? If we're not having the middle class also becoming in a way the conscience of the nation and a group of people who robustly engage it, because perhaps they might have the luxury because they didn't wake up at 5 a.m. to go and lima a shamba. Why are we saying the middle class should not have this debate?
This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Jerotich Seii is here. She's an active citizen. She is among the faces of the Linda Katiba movement. And the Linda Katiba is the no side of this whole story, right?
Yes.
Yes. They are saying no to BBI and all the proposed amendments to the Constitution.
So, I mean, like we had the MP for Gilgil here a couple of days ago. And one of the things that rung out in my mind was that she said, we're almost asking for, opposing views to this if we were not going to take this BBI as a solution to the issues that we have in the country and then amend the constitution. We're not hearing on the other side the reasons as to why we should not, the reasons as to why we should go in the opposite direction. What are those reasons? And then why is it not coming out? If we're talking about the middle class and the responsibility that bears on middle class in this country, what is the alternate view? What should people understand from this?
Well, what we have said, as Linda Katiba, consistently and continuously, is the alternate view is the Constitution of Kenya 2010. You see, if you go back, whether you're looking at Article 43, economic and social rights, whether you're looking at issues of fiduciary accountability, for example, around appropriations, around public finance, whether you're looking at matters devolution, whether you're looking at matters executive or judiciary, they're already there in the Constitution of Kenya 2010. And so effectively, then what we would need to do is do an entire rollout of civic education again around the Constitution of Kenya 2010. Because we are not saying there's Constitution of Kenya 2010, then there's BBI, and then there's a Linda Katiba alternative. No, the Linda Katiba alternative has always been the Constitution of Kenya 2010.
So you're not saying necessarily, I'm against BBI. What you're saying is then, I am for the Constitution.
Correct. That is why we are Linda Katiba. We are defending, and not just from BBI proponents, but in perpetuity, for any space that will attempt to come and mutilate or massacre the Constitution of Kenya without showing demonstrable, without demonstrating how it's going to improve your life and my life. We will say, let us stay with what we have. Now, I believe in amendments. I believe in amendments that are ameliorative, that are corrective. In fact, if you study you say I'm being elitist. If you study the meaning of the word amendment,
there's nothing wrong in being
I don't
elitist.
mind, but I don't mind. I make no apologies.
Yes, please.
I make no apologies. But what I was saying is that when you have tweaks, if you say confusion over Ruto's office's request for 400 BBI copies, maybe the request was not clear, the word request, so you put another word there that strengthens the meaning of request. That I don't mind. And we have said any time, and look at constitutions around the world that have undergone amendments to strengthen wording, to strengthen understanding. What we're looking at here with BBI is not an amendment process. So even when they call it the amendment bill, you're like, what? 14 out of 18 chapters. This is a complete overhaul, especially around fundamental areas, around the independence of the judiciary, around the executive, around devolution, around things to do with our Bill of Rights. You're actually changing and altering the entire meaning of the Constitution.
But that message needs to be shared with the people. And the question there is, so what is it that you're going to say that, okay, so we are Lindaing Katiba because this is what the Katiba is. If we say that we haven't implemented the Constitution, that means that the people haven't felt this Katiba. And if someone comes and says, look, for the longest you have seen the small gains that have been made with devolution, and that was only 15%. Can you imagine if we more than doubled that, how that much would be? Someone will tell you, it's the same Constitution that is giving me 15. Now it's the same Constitution that I'm amending just to give me 35. What's the problem? How will you counter these messages?
Did that require an entire multi-billion shilling project?
Actually, yes, it did.
To go to 35%,
Yes,
when the Constitution said that 15% was the minimum. So you could go to 20, you could go to 40, you could go to 50%. So what I'm trying to say is, even when you have some potentially decent additions, they are riders for a more sinister agenda, which is around the political class making arrangements for its own survival. So you'll have lovely little things. And that's why it's a very strong selling point, mashinani. When you say 35%, hamtaki 35%.
It's a sweetener.
It's a sweetener. But if you argue and say, well, why are you getting your 15%? Okay, that's circular. So you don't want to go that way. You say, but actually there was nothing stopping the political class from ever putting you at 30, 35%, 40%. So for Linda Katiba, when we say we have 4 areas that we're concerned around or about, especially in relation to BBI. Number one, the very existential threat that is faced by Kenyans when we talk about altering so fundamentally, mutilating, transforming, making it something that it wasn't, that we promulgated, number one.
Right there, elitist.
Okay, but okay, all right.
You see, Gerald, there's a point.
Maybe you need to join Linda Katiba.
No. Allow me to explain what
But
I'm saying.
let me do the
to
4
you.
points, and then you will tell me
All right, please do the 4 points.
what is elitist, or
Yes.
maybe so that I can understand
Yes.
where you're going
Yes.
with your thought process. Because I love you a lot. So it's the
When someone tells you,
on media. Boy, today, by the end of today, do you know what fake news people?
I'm telling you, you have to
Zero
finish
falls
something
in love.
we shall be riding into the sunset before the end.
on a white horse, no less.
So, hey, you never know. Hey, so look, to your wife, to my spouse, look, this was just radio. Anyway, the second area, which is of great concern to Linda Katiba, that if it were to be addressed in this so-called BBI process, perhaps we would have, said, what are they trying to say? Is issues of electoral justice. Electoral justice has not been addressed. By rearranging the players in the commission, or by altering this or changing how the commission can select, or insisting that parties adhere to certain lists, etc., has not altered the fundamental point of departure for all Kenyans, which is electoral injustice. Why do people fight? Why did people fight in 92? Why did they fight in 97? Why did they fight in 2007? Why has there been tension in 2013? Why did we have the violence in 2017? Electoral injustice. Number 3, a massive issue that this regime has been incapable of addressing: corruption. And number 4 is a policy space. So a lot of the things that even BBI is proposing that would have improved the lives of Kenyans, why didn't they do it within the framework of policy and policy transformation or enactment? That's why we have a legislature. But instead, they're taking us down an entire repeal process. So those are the 4 areas. It is, do not touch this Constitution of Kenya 2010, because that is where the threat lies. We will not have this progressive, wonderful document. Number 2, that we have not addressed the issue of electoral injustice. Number 3, the issue of governance and corruption. Number 4, the policy space. And none of the BBI recommendations adequately tackle that. And that's why I say there's something underneath it. So tell me about this elite story.
You see,
Yeah.
elitism is not something that you juxtapose between the so-called middle class and those who are not in the middle class. No. The ideas that you're putting across, that's what I'm referring to as elitism, because they're excellent ideas, but to understand them in a way that they would resonate with someone whose basic need is not to change the constitution, but rather to get running water, make sure the child goes to school, and that they have a square meal or they have a job. Anything that is wordy and seems to explain a complex situation is elitist. Why is it elitist? Because it's the sort of thing that would appeal to an academic or somebody who likes that sort of dialogue. But you're pitting yourself against politicians, people who know how to break this thing down in simple terms that it resonates immediately. It's like Panadol Extra. Yes, I'm giving them a leg up.
There you go.
Yes.
extra fast.
Extra fast.
Strikes against you.
Yes. Yes.
No,
So all I'm saying is this. There are battles that you fight simply for purpose of information. But this one is a battle you want to fight so that you can win. You've taken it to court. But remember, these justices live in Kenya. And they deal with these matters on a daily because they see. They observe what's happening. So even as they make their decision, yes, there'll be the law as in the letter, and there'll be the spirit. What am I saying? I am saying Linda Katiba needs to capture the soul of the Mwananchi. Capture.
So it's a communication.
Not the mind. Yes. It's the communication that I'm saying is elitist. Capture the soul, not the mind. These very good politicians, the ones who seem to have people, they capture the soul, not the mind. They sell you an idea and they grip you with it.
No, but that's why the hustler narrative is so powerful.
It
That's
is
why
an
it has
extremely powerful narrative.
It is basically, if I follow what you're talking about, it is the hustler narrative speaks to class consciousness and some class discussions around what's happening, who is hustling where, who's doing, and it captured the imagination of the population so much so that they were even trying to legislate against the use of the word hustler going forward.
Exactly.
And so I hear what you're saying, and when I look at the website, which the lindakatiba.org, fake news people already came up with the lindakatiba.com, which said other things, but we are at this point, as we move the message out, we're not going to sit and say, the existential threats faced by da-da-da. We'll be saying issues. And if you look at the website, things about children learning under trees, our health workers without protective gear, no water, we can't afford electricity. Why are we running the Switch Off KPLC campaign? All of these things we refer to in detail. Honorable Martha Karua, and several times, and she's a politician also, so if it's about messaging, this is somebody who can also message to the people. I'm not a politician, but I message a lot around energy justice and so on. So you're absolutely right in that from that highfalutin space, which is academic and cerebral.
Who?
We'll talk about it.
Don't worry.
Don't worry, we shall get there. I will. Now, how can I?
You will elucidate it in due course.
Okay.
These linguistic gymnastics that are taking place here today.
Linguistic gymnastics, elucidation, highfalutin.
Yes.
Mimi niko tu hapa.
All right. What we're asking you to do is to transmogrify it for us. Yes.
I will not use big words anymore because nimeshindwa kabisa. No, I get you about
Brought a knife to a gunfight. didn't she?
apparently a blunt knife. It reminds me of the Beijing Platform for Action in 1995, which was a culmination of since Mexico conference in 75, the Nairobi conference in 85, and then the Cairo ICPD conference, and then the Beijing Platform for Action, which came out of the Beijing conference in 1995. I worked for a civil society organization in the late 90s that had a translation, because there's I don't remember how many, the Platform for Action had 6 or 7 or 10, I don't remember. We had publications called Kuleta Beijing Nyumbani. And so that was able to say, when we talk about gender equity, what does that mean? When you say Kuleta Beijing Nyumbani, talked about education of the girl child, etc., etc. And by so doing, we were able to make sure in whatever language, everybody was able to understand. So you don't say those feminist people in Beijing,
Out there.
they are bad people, they're not good women, they are divorcees, they are this, they are that, and so on and so forth. To actually saying, what is the Platform for Action and what does it mean for me as a mama somewhere in Isiolo trying to survive and trying to educate my children, trying to avoid violent situations, or even interested in public life and leadership. So you're right that it has to be domesticated. It has to be given a language that can be heard. Not just heard, you hear words but you don't understand, but heard to the extent that people say, this is why I must say no.
I like your analogy, but you see, let me further my argument a little more.
Okay.
See, if you have women fighting for the cause of women, it's women fighting for their own cause. If you can get men fighting for that cause, it becomes an extremely powerful
There
tool.
were men as well. Yes.
I said it becomes an extremely powerful tool.
tool.
When you have sitting politicians already have positions fighting your cause, not people who've been in politics. What I'm saying is that's why I referenced it to the movement that brought about this Katiba and how they were inclusive, how over time they included very many people. So people who are actively in politics, members of parliament, people like that. I am saying this. I understand these things take time. It's not that I don't understand it. But I also understand that narratives and perceptions are what people take as their reality. And if you do not have a tool for fighting it, then irrespective of how good what you're trying to put across is, it will not have the desired effect and hence results. That's really what I am saying.
I hear you. And luckily for us, the tools are there. The tools are there with Linda Katiba. And this is why you see such heavy opposition, derision, whatever you want to call, against. Because if Linda Katiba was a little inconsequential little platform somewhere with some few civil society noisemakers, would have been ignored. No one would take the time and the energy to rebut us, to fight us, to spin narratives, to spread fake news about us. So we do have that. We are working with a massive network of women. I'm not saying men are not there, but through the National Women Steering committee, there is a massive outreach and network of women around the country who are being sensitized, who are spreading the word there in Turkana, in Lamu, and so on and so forth. So it is there. And maybe perhaps it is to disabuse Wakenya of the notion that we are sitting in some place discussing and we never take it to the ground. It's on the ground. It's on the ground. And it's also here. We should have a simultaneity
Is
of
it
conversation.
felt on the ground?
It's on the ground
Yes.
where?
Huh?
Which ground?
Which ground do you want it to be on?
On the visible ground, not
What is
underground.
what is visible ground for you?
Where I can see visibility, I can see the pro BBI people on the ground. I can see, I can hear them. You not just on
You can
in
touch
the
and
mainstream
feel them.
media, even on now on social media, you will see people talking about the BBI and what they think about it. You'll also see people talking about against the BBI, but from a political angle. The Linda Katiba vibe is what I haven't felt.
Well,
You
you will
say-
feel it, and you will continue to feel it because we have launched. That was a couple of weeks at the beginning of this month. So, 1st of February, we had the official launch. You remember on the 30th of November, we had the announcement where we said we are Linda Katiba,
Yeah.
and we're going to get into a program of action, and we're going to fight to protect and uphold and maintain the Constitution of Kenya 2010. On the 1st of February, we launched. Of course, people said, "Why did you launch in Serena?" We're also not silly. We launch in a place that is symbolic, because that's where even the
Kofi
post
Annan.
that's a Kofi Annan meetings took place there. Also, if we're going to be disrupted by cops, where will we be disrupted? So we also have strategic reasons why we launch and hold our meetings in certain places, but we don't hold our daily meetings there. So there was that. Then there's been the sign up. Go to the website. You please sign if you haven't signed to Linda Katiba. And then we're popularizing it. We have our networks in various counties across. Obviously, you will not hear Linda Katiba the way you'll hear BBI because, as I mentioned, the machinery, the resources, the use of yours and my taxpayers' funds, it's in full swing to popularize BBI and to make sure everybody knows why this is such a good thing. The head of state himself, who should be focusing on his legacy and retirement, is busy out there pushing for BBI.
Let me ask you a different question,
Yes,
Jero.
yes.
Okay. What efforts have you made or are you making to bring in people who are already in active politics, their MPs, their MCAs? Are there people who support this Linda Katiba? Yes, you're going to quote Kivuta Kibwana. Yes, I understand he's already there. Who else?
He's already where?
He's gone.
He's not a member
In
of
Linda-
Linda Katiba.
Oh, no. His pronouncements and the position he has taken is a Linda Katiba position for the longest time. Even when his county voted, he himself said categorically, look, I represent these people. And if this is what they're saying, now there are those who want to interpret as they see fit. But I'm going by what has been attributed to him. He has an issue. Okay? He hasn't changed. That's what I'm saying. Now, apart from him, who else?
So you want me to list governors?
No, I want you to list politicians who have positions who have been voted in. And there's a reason why I'm asking you this.
Tell me where you're going with this.
You see, where I'm going with this is simply this, huh?
Because if I list 10 for you, you'll say where are the other 20.
No,
If
I will
list
not.
5, you'll
I
say
will
where
not.
the other.
I will not. I will
see.
actually say these are inconsequential. That's what I will say.
So where are you going with this?
What I'm going with this is, you are fighting a narrative that centers itself on individuals who are propagating it. And I'm saying, to counter it, you also need individuals who are in that same sphere to be countering it. They may not be as many, but it makes for a credible voice. If not, it is just civil society noise.
No, but it's also unfair to say that for it to be credible noise, we need to have politicians backing it.
Not credible. For it to be effective noise, it had better be. Remember the analogy you gave about women. When a woman gets divorced, she's blamed. Women support her. And I was saying, I like the analogy, but if there were more men who came out and said, you know something, this divorce thing is not just about women. Come on, let's talk about the role men play. By the time this woman is leaving, what on earth has she gone through? If men say it, it's a very different message from if many other women say it. Yes.
You see, what I'm wondering is whether we're heading into a fanatically obscure space where at one point, if we say, okay, we're in 47 counties and we have reached 400,000 people, or we have 16 politicians with us, or we have 10 governors with us or against us, there'll still be and what about, and what about. So my issue is less about how to get the political class to back or support or defend Linda Katiba, because don't forget, every single politician represents a political interest. And I have not seen, for example, the deputy president come out clearly and say he is for no. Although fake news purveyors would like to say that we are his civic front working quietly in the background or loudly in the background for him. Jubilee Kieleweke is very clear. They're pro-BBI. ODM is very clear. It's pro-BBI. When you see the headlines with all the gentlemen who stood there in State House, obviously they're all pro-BBI. Gentlemen, actually, yes, that's true. It's all gentlemen.
And-
Okay,
and
there's
one
there's
lady,
charity.
one
There's
lady.
charity in Gilu.
Yes.
So I do not expect necessarily to have politicians go against their party line and start fighting. That would be wonderful. For example, my very good friend, Professor Kivuda Kibwana, who I've known for 20-something years, if he said, as he said on television the other day, he said, my county assembly voted yes. The people said yes to BBI. And I am a Democrat, and I go with what the people say.
Say.
Well done. Well done. I don't necessarily, he said the other alternative would have been to resign. That's what he said himself. I quote him, said that would have been the other alternative. So what are we going to see? Widespread resignation by governors, members of parliament, senators who don't agree with BBI? As it is, people keep taunting the deputy president and saying, resign, resign, step away. All of you who are, see, you leave and you form your own thing. So I will not count on the political class necessarily to step forward and take a firm stance in defense of the Constitution of Kenya, because ultimately, let's look at the deputy president. If BBI passes or doesn't, no skin off his nose. If BBI passes or not, even for Right Honorable Raila Odinga, no skin off his nose. So why would they come out in defense of? So this becomes really a civic action where we're going to, as you're saying, you have the academic discussions, you have the machinani discussions, you domesticate it, you take it to the people. This idea of leaving the conversation about the Constitution at that level of politicians and the elitist academic types, for me, does not fly.
So where do we see the action now being taken? Because as you know, as we would look at it now, it's going to referendum, whether we want to, whatever we want to say, it's going to that point. So with all the work that's being done here now, are we seeing now the action being taken at the point of referendum? When we are saying Linda Katiba, making that decision is how you will actually show that you will be Linda in Katiba.
Yes, so you see, for me, the biggest issue here, Ndu, is electoral justice issues. So we're waiting for the 5-judge bench to hear our matter on the 17th of March. And it's consolidated. I think 7 cases have come together.
Right,
There's also a very important matter, which is the issue of the diaspora vote and a Supreme Court ruling that came out clearly in 2015 and a Court of Appeal, a ruling as well, which ordered that the diaspora be registered to vote. So there's that other matter in court as well, saying whether we are for BBI or against, you cannot disenfranchise us as the citizens of Kenya, wherever we are all over the world. So there's that. And then there are the other matters before the 5-judge bench. Now, once that is heard, we will respect whatever judgment and ruling comes out of it, and we will see what next to do. So we have had systematic movement. First of all, there was the announcement of BBI. For years now, you've heard me talking about BBI. Linda Katiba became this amalgamation of individuals who said we cannot stand by and watch the Constitution of Kenya being mutilated. There's also Kongamano la Mageuzi also that have come out and said Tekeleza Katiba. They are more of a political formation. We are a civic formation, but our objectives and our aims are the same. Then we moved into spaces where IBC said we want observers for the verification exercise. I'm an observer. We became observers as Linda Katiba. I have my pass, and we went to see what was happening in Bomas. Meanwhile, we have our court matter. Now, as we continue on this highway, we might get to the point where the 5-judge bench says, actually, our advisory is that things can proceed as usual. Now we move to where you're saying the referendum. See, they're saying here, they expect the referendum to be in May. Kwani, they have a crystal ball to see what the 5-judge bench is going to decide.
Yeah.
But let's say we get there. How do you know that your yes or your no will count? That is the fundamental question. Servers that remain closed, the same contractors that printed are the same ones being brought by IBC. IBC is in disobedience of Supreme Court orders around voter registration for the diaspora. How are we going to say that the noes have it or the yeses have it? We don't have,
For sure.
we
Knowing
don't
for sure.
have electoral justice.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.